I'm going to touch on a couple of the new products or the new features in 3 of the products, one being AutoCAD MEP, Revit, and then Navisworks. So, and then I'll take a quick look at some of these new features and how they will help us in our workflows, our design process, our construction documentation process, and even seeing how we can manage these items, the new features to roll into if we're doing a project that goes into facility management. So first off, with AutoCAD MEP, if you haven't taken a look yet, the first thing you'll notice is they have updated the user interface, and they did this kind of to make it easier on the eyes, and they updated some of the toolbars and the icons on the toolbars in a different format. Also, one new feature that was added as far as during the design process is the Project Navigator check in and out feature. So here we have the ability to be working on a project file that other users may be working on and check out maybe a piece of mechanical equipment and edit that in a drawing and then check it back in without affecting other users working on that specific drawing. Another update that in the new features in AutoCAD MEP is the electrical project database backups. We're now able to back up these databases, and I know on the electrical side when you're doing circuiting and you're creating panel schedules, this electrical project database could be, the file could be lost, it could get deleted off the server, or if a file happens to become corrupt, some of these, the information in this electrical project database with the circuiting gets lost. So now we have the ability to roll back to different versions of the electrical project database. Another feature is the anchored object preview. If you're working on a project and you're doing a coordination model and you have another consultant's model or AutoCAD file linked into yours, we have the object preview. As we're laying out ductwork, we can see where we have a preview of where we're laying out the ductwork. So it allows a little more efficiency when we're drawing around models that may be extracted into our AutoCAD file. Another feature that was added was the color code version differentiation. I know before, sometimes when updates happen to project files, we may export out into some PDF software and overlay these drawings to see the differences or changes. Now we can do this in AutoCAD and show color-coded differences between updated files. So I'll talk a little bit about Revit now. Some of the enhancements in Revit, specifically around documentation. I know we always have to, engineers always have to produce construction documents, 2D plans. So Autodesk has added some enhancements to these documentation tools to allow you to document a little more efficiently and maybe even communicate some of this information across in your construction documentation. One being we can add images to scheduling. So specifically if we had a light fixture schedule, we can add a specific image that we put out in our bid package that the contractor can visibly see what that actual fixture is. So it just allows a little more flexibility in communicating our information of our drawings onto schedules. Views on sheets have been enhanced a little bit. We're now able to click into views on sheets and double click out of them, similar to how we used to do it in AutoCAD. Now we're able to do this in Revit, so it allows a little more productivity when you hit a deadline and you have to go through those sheets and make those little edits at that last day or that last hour where you're trying to get some construction documents printed out. They did enhance or added a new feature for showing hidden lines, and I know this was a request and has been a request from MEP engineers for quite some time. So they did add a little more flexibility to show hidden lines based on an actual discipline in a view. Some of the revision tools were enhanced as far as creating clouds and being able to edit and delete those clouds and organize those clouds accordingly. Another really nice feature that has been added, and I'm interested to see how this plays out in projects, is the family parameter order adjustment. In a building information modeling project, all that information that the MEP engineers are entering into their model all comes back to this family types dialog. A company has to organize their parameters and create building standards for the actual project they're working on. So Autodesk has updated and added some new features to organize from ascending to descending. We can actually select a parameter and move it around in our family types dialog to better organize our parameters. There was also a new feature added to the specific parameter. We can actually type an identification, and we'll take a look at this in a minute, where we can describe what that parameter is and what it's being used for in the project, which is a really nice organizational tool. Another enhancement is the IFC linking. We can now link in IFC models. If you get this from another consultant, we can bring this in and look at that 3D geometry and coordinate it with our Revit model. A couple other features in Revit. On the design side, we now have the ability to specify the calculation method. There's a few equations that have been added to creating these calculations. And also, to touch a little bit more on the documentation side, we can use the tag features to tag duct and pipe at specific segments after individual taps off the duct. So we can, I guess an example here is we can show the CFM, before and after a tapped duct, which we couldn't do before. We would have to do this in maybe a legend or a color legend, but now we can do this with tags. There was some enhancements to the electrical wiring. Through the API, if you're a third-party developer, you can create new electrical wiring and all the details that you were able to do through the user interface. So moving on to Navisworks, I'll touch on that a little bit. If the integration of 2D and 3D quantification was enhanced and added in Navisworks 2015, we're able to take DWF files and do 2D quantity takeoffs, and we can also do 3D quantification within Navisworks. If you have ever used QTO or are familiar with that product, a lot of those enhancements or features have been rolled into the Navisworks product. And now we're also able to, which is really nice, we can do cloud rendering. If you need to take a photorealistic image of a room, a space, or a building, we can do this cloud rendering and send it up into the Autodesk servers and allow them to calculate, put that horsepower on their machines rather than using up yours. And we also have a little more control over point cloud data sets. I know there's a lot of technology coming out with taking photos of buildings and taking laser scanning of existing buildings. We can bring this into Navisworks and have a little more control, and we can actually create point subsets where we can do clash detection of areas of our point cloud in our model. So I'll take a quick look and jump into the Revit application just to show a couple of these new features that have been added. So I just have a typical floor plan here, and specifically I just wanted to point out the tag feature with the flow of the ductwork between segments. So if I do go to this, tag this duct, and I did create a specific tag based on the flow parameter, and I can take this tag and copy it down or place it between segments, and it shows me my flow between these taps off this duct, which is a really nice documentational tool or even a design tool for mechanical design. Now I'll take another look at the object or the parameter, the updates that they added to creating parameters and families. I'll take a quick look at this fan coil unit. So I'll click on the fan coil unit and open up that family in the family editor. Now if I go to my family types dialog, we can see in the family types dialog how we can add new parameters, modify or move up and down these parameters, or create these parameters in an ascending or descending order. So if I select to add a parameter, and I need to make this specific to, electrical wattage. And organize this under the actual electrical, there we go, click wattage. Also note down here that I pointed out earlier, we have the tooltip description where we can add a tooltip to this parameter. And notify any other user that may be coming into this project that this is the standard wattage that they want to use for this project. I know sometimes with families that we get offline or use out of the box, there's some voltages and parameters or other parameters that already have a name, and we have to create our own name for it. And we can set this up to where users know which one that they need to use for the project. So it's a really nice feature in organizing these parameters in our file. And I can even take this parameter, move up and down, or ascend and descend, and organize these parameters in a specific format so other users can come in and easily be able to tell which parameters we're using for the project or even the standard that we're using for our office. So this all ties back to when we get into our facility management model, and if we're exporting over into Navisworks and looking at this actual unit, we know in the facility management model or the construction coordination model that we're using, we can select that object and be confident that our fan coil unit has the correct parameter values that we've assigned for our company standard or the project standard. So another quick tool on the documentation side regarding, I guess an example for this would be the CAD manager getting down to the deadline and needing to make some markups and some quick changes to the sheets that they need to print out and get out of the door. Now we're able to double click in and select the view to activate this view and actually click outside of the view when we're finished editing the view. Now if we were to open this view and look at the hidden line feature that was added in the 2015, we have the ability to change by discipline how we want the hidden lines to show up in this view. And I know this has been a request, and there's been questions that come up a lot on how to show, or sometimes we use filters or other workarounds to get the correct visibility to show up. So with that, those are just a couple of things that are going to help with documentation and with the parameters. So in summary, I touched a little bit on the new features in AutoCAD MEP, some of the new features in Revit and in Navisworks, and looked at a few items in the application to see how we could use this specifically for setting up our project for construction documents and setting up our project for a facility management model and organizing those parameters in that facility management model.